What a beautiful Monday morning. The birds are chirping, the sun is shining outside, and I wake up to see Stephanie White getting dragged through the mud for being a snake oil salesman, aka a liar, all online. Oh, what a great day.
What a beautiful Monday morning. The birds are chirping. The sun is shining outside. And I wake up to see Stephanie White getting dragged through the mud for being a snake oil salesman, a liar, all online. Oh, what a great day. They caught her. They absolutely caught her in a web of her own making. The honeymoon phase is officially over in Indiana. And what was supposed to be a championship march has instantly turned into a locker room nightmare. What you are about to see is not just another bad coaching decision. It is the exact moment that an entire fan base realized they had been sold a completely fraudulent bill of goods. New highly controversial footage has just surfaced from Stephanie White's press appearances, and Caitlin Clark fans are currently playing detective, pulling the receipts and exposing the absolute hypocrisy of the Indiana Fever head coach. We are talking about broken promises. We are talking about terrible basketball strategy, and we are talking about a coach who is systematically taking away the greatest weapon the WNBA has ever seen. Roamed for months. The Indiana Fever faithful were promised a revolution. When Stephanie White was brought in, she was heralded as a basketball genius. She was the elite ball knower who was going to unlock the final level of the Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston dynamic duo. But the season opener against the Dallas Wings was a rude, offensive awakening. Fans watched in absolute horror as the greatest two-man game in modern basketball was completely erased from the playbook. And when the internet started digging into the why, they uncovered a series of interviews that have set the sports world completely on fire, and fans completely lost it after this. That's what this Indiana Fever franchise does best.
That's what this Indiana Fever franchise does best. So she goes on, she talks to Renee Montgomery. They not like us. They not like us. And she says, oh, well, teams are expecting the pick and roll. We got to change. We can't do the same thing over and over again. I mean, y'all's only done 13 games together last year, so you don't really establish anything. And then we have Stephanie White's introductory press conference. Oh, Stockton and Malone, the pick and roll game. Oh, we have the two best. Let's get right into it, shall we?
Let's go straight to the videotape because the evidence is absolutely damning. Stephanie White sat down for a highly publicized interview with Renee Montgomery, and she essentially gave the entire opposing league the blueprint on how she was going to sabotage her own offense. During the interview, White arrogantly stated that because opposing teams are expecting the pick and roll, the Indiana Fever simply cannot run it anymore. She claimed they have to change their entire offensive identity because other teams might be prepared for it. When fans heard those words, a collective gasp echoed across the internet. It was a statement so fundamentally flawed, so devoid of basic basketball logic that people thought it was a deep fake. You do not abandon your greatest strength just because the other team knows it's coming. That is not how professional sports work. That is not how legends are built. But what happened next changed everything. If you have the best weapon in the game, you use it until they prove they can stop it. And guess what? Nobody could stop the Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston pick and roll last year. Nobody. It was the most lethal action in the entire WNBA. When you have an offensive engine that dominant, the defense's preparation does not matter. It worked.
Yeah, I think creating space for C and AB to do what they do in the two-man game, you probably aren't going to see it necessarily on the first side of the floor anymore. Everybody's game plan is ready for that. I think playing through AB as a...
What the hell did you just say? What did you just say? You were probably never going to see it again?
You probably aren't going to see it necessarily on the first side of the floor anymore. Everybody's game plan is ready for that. I think playing through AB as a hub and inverting some of those actions. I mean, she showed last year that she can be a point forward.
Think about the greatest athletes in the history of sports. Did the Los Angeles Lakers stop giving the ball to Shaquille O'Neal in the paint just because the defense was expecting it? Absolutely not. They threw it down low and said, "Try to stop us." Did the Minnesota Vikings stop handing the football to Adrian Peterson in his prime just because the defense stacked 9 guys in the box? They handed it off because they knew greatness cannot be contained by preparation alone. When you have a generational talent, you force the opponent to adapt to you. You do not preemptively surrender your best offensive set out of fear. Get gun. But Stephanie White seems to believe she is the smartest person in the room. She stated plainly that fans are probably not going to see that two-man game on the first side of the floor anymore. Instead, she wants to use Aaliyah Boston as a hub, invert the offense, and essentially turn Caitlin Clark into a decoy. She is trying to reinvent the wheel when she already holds the keys to a Ferrari. That's when things got even worse. The fans were already seething, but then the internet detectives pulled up the holy grail of receipts. They went back to Stephanie White's introductory press conference the moment she was trying to win over the fan base and secure their trust.
This is what I do best, and it's up to you to stop it. This is what I do best, and it's up to you to stop it. She needs a drug test. Straight up. She needs a drug. People knew what Stockton and Malone were going to do. Pick and roll, pick and roll. She needs a drug test. She needs to get tested. Somebody test her, please. Go to CVS, get an over-the-counter drug test. What? She needs... Wait. There's only coffee. What's in your coffee cup, Stephanie? What's in your coffee cup?
During that press conference, Stephanie White looked directly into the cameras and invoked the names of absolute royalty. She compared Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston to John Stockton and Karl Malone. Let that sink in. She compared them to the greatest pick-and-roll duo in the history of the sport. She stood at that podium acting like a snake oil salesman, promising the fans a historically dominant two-man game. She sold them the dream of unstoppable pick-and-roll basketball. And then in the very first game of the season against Dallas, how many pick-and-rolls did they run? 2, maybe 3. They completely abandoned the very concept that she used to sell herself to the organization. The hypocrisy is staggering. You cannot stand at a podium and compare your players to Stockton and Malone and then explicitly state in an interview that you refuse to run the pick-and-roll because teams are prepared for it. Everyone knew what Stockton and Malone were going to do for 2 straight decades and nobody could stop it, and fans completely lost it after this part of your game.
Part of your game? We call that a dummy. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you guys were the best two-man game in the league. Oh, nobody can stop your pick and roll. We're going to go away from that. We don't call that a great coach. We call that a dummy. And we have people telling us she's an elite ball knower. My ass, elite ball knower. Sheesh almighty. She needed to be fired in the offseason.
The results on the court were exactly what you would expect from such a disastrous coaching philosophy. The Indiana Fever looked completely disjointed. Caitlin Clark, the most dynamic playmaker on the planet, looked visibly frustrated. She was being moved off the ball. She was being told to stand in the corner while the offense initiated through different actions. It felt like Stephanie White was playing defense against her own team. It felt like she was actively suppressing Caitlin Clark's natural instincts just to prove that her inverted offensive system could work, and the fans are absolutely refusing to tolerate it. The outrage online has reached a boiling point that we have never seen before. People are calling for her job after a single game. They are comparing her to the previous coaching regime, with some even stating that this new philosophy is actively worse than what they suffered through last year. When you have people on social media unironically asking for a drug test for the head coach because her offensive strategy makes absolutely zero sense, you have a massive catastrophic problem on your hands. Webin, but what happened next changed everything. The narrative that Stephanie White is an elite ball knower is crumbling before our very eyes. The shill media is desperately trying to run cover for her. They are trying to write articles explaining why moving Caitlin Clark off the ball is actually a genius high IQ basketball move. They want you to believe that neutralizing the most dangerous offensive threat in the league is somehow part of a master plan. But the fans are not buying it. They know what a great coach looks like. A great coach identifies the absolute best part of their roster and maximizes it until the wheels fall off. A dummy, as the viral commentary so perfectly put it, takes away the best part of their team's game just to prove they are the smartest person in the room. Stephanie White is outsmarting herself, and in the process she is alienating the most passionate fan base in all of sports. Who's taking the lead today, guys?
Who's taking the lead today, guys? The lady is an absolute psycho. She's a nutcase. She's on some type of medication. She is, man. Like I can't pull punches anymore. I can't pull punches. I can't. She's just not it. She's just not it. And it's even more frustrating when you see people defend the shit. Calling her a great coach. Calling her a good coach. Calling her an excellent coach. If I have Peyton Manning, would I rather have Peyton Manning throw the ball 30 plus times?
The locker room dynamic right now has to be incredibly tense when players are forced to abandon what makes them great. When they are asked to buy into a system that clearly is not working, resentment builds incredibly fast. How long before Caitlin Clark looks at the bench and demands the basketball? How long before Aaliyah Boston realizes that setting high screens for Clark is infinitely more effective than acting as a stationary hub at the top of the key? This isn't just a bad game plan. This is a betrayal of the basketball identity that made the Indiana Fever relevant again. Stephanie White sold the fans a dream of Stockton and Malone and delivered a nightmare of overcoached, overthought, ineffective basketball. The pressure on this coaching staff heading into the next game is completely astronomical. If they do not immediately course correct, if they do not put the ball back in Caitlin Clark's hands and let the two-man game flourish, the fans will absolutely burn the internet down. They will accept no more excuses. They will accept no more genius defensive explanations. They want the generational talent they were promised, and they want the coach to get completely out of the way. We have to know where you stand on this massive controversy. Did Stephanie White actually lie to the fan base? Or is she just trying to implement a complex system that needs more time? Is moving Caitlin Clark off the ball the worst coaching decision in WNBA history? Or are the fans overreacting to one bad game plan? Drop your unhinged, unfiltered thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one. Smash that like button. And if you want the real hard-hitting truth about the WNBA that the mainstream media is terrified to talk about, subscribe to WNBA Pro right now. The drama is far from over. See you on the next.